Hello, and welcome everyone to another Circuit Stream workshop. Thank you everyone for joining us here today. Before I do continue on, I would love to do a quick AV audio visual check. So if you could all let me know in the chat here to the right, can you all hear me and see me? I see some people typing. James, all good. Maria, Ralph, Chris, Brian, Nichelle, Tan, Mitchell. Now I lost all the names. All good. Everyone can hear me and see me. Lovely. Thank you all again for joining us today on another exciting Circus Stream workshop. We're super excited to have you all here today and really looking forward to showing you all an introduction to building your own virtual reality museum. Now, a few housekeeping items before I do continue on. As you all see there to the right, there is a chat tab. So feel free to chat amongst yourselves, toss in your LinkedIn profiles, make some comments. It's really all yours there. The chat is all yours. If you do have any questions, though, for myself, for my colleague Indica, any of our members backstage, do toss them into the questions tab. There's a questions tab just to the right of the chat tab there. So feel free to go into the questions tab, ask a question. We do have a live Q&A session at the very end. So if you do toss them into the questions tab, really helps us track and organize what questions have come in, what we haven't answered, and what we still need to get to. Now, beside the questions tab, there is a polls tab as well. I'm going to toss in a quick poll here just to show you all what this polls tab looks like. So feel free to navigate to the polls tab. It's that third tab to the right of the chat. I'm publishing the poll. This one's an easy one. Out of curiosity, what devices do you own, if any? I myself have a couple of the Oculus Quest devices here. I got the Quest 1 and the Quest 2. But curious to know, what do you all currently working with, or what do you own? I see a few Quest 1s, Androids, iPhones. I've got an Android phone as well. Quest 2, some Rift, some HTC devices. Lovely. Looks like you're all getting familiar with the polls tab there. So thank you very much for getting there. Now, with all of our workshops and webinars, I would love to see where everyone's tuning in from. Let me know in the chat where you're currently located. Where are you tuning in from? Ralph, great seeing you from New York. We've got a few from Florida, Philly, another New York, Toronto, Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken, CT, Boston, Chicago. So quite a few North Americans. I see a Germany there as well, UK, Belgium, an international audience with us today as well. So great to have you all here. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's get on with the presentation here. Quick introduction. This will take about 5 to 10 minutes. After this, we're going to invite my colleague onto the stage here for the more technical aspect, the VR Museum Deep Dive. And that's going to take about 30 to 45 minutes. I'm going to come back, wrap things up for 5-10 minutes with some resources and steps if you're interested in taking your learning further. And then we'll do our live Q&A session at the very end. We will answer some questions live throughout as well. But at the very end, 15 to 30 minutes, really depends on how many questions we have. We'll be answering those questions at the end there. Now, for those of you located abroad, maybe taking some time out of the workday to catch this workshop and webinar, this is all recorded. So we will send the recording out to all the registrants afterwards. If you need to go to sleep, if you need to have breakfast, if you've got a meeting to go into, don't worry, this is all recorded. We'll send the recording afterwards for you to follow along, pause, slow down, really take your time with the recording that we send over. Now, this will be accompanied with project files and resources as well. All of the codes will send in everything that you need to actually kickstart this project yourself as well, if you don't work alongside us here today. But with that, I would recommend sit back, relax, kick your feet up, observe, ask questions, soak it all in. And then afterwards, use the recording to start building your own VR museum. Feel free to follow along if you'd like as well, but We will kind of speed through this. It's about an hour workshop that we'll be holding today. So I'd hate for anyone to fall behind. Again, sit back, relax, observe, ask questions, and then we'll send all the resources you need after to work with this, slow it down, pause it, whatever it may be. But a little intro for myself. My name is Stefan. I am the learning advisor and work in partnerships here at CircuitStream. I have over 7 years of experience in the tech industry, working with travel IT companies, learning management system providers, ERP and business integration platforms, and now in the beautiful world of virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. Now, a little icebreaker fact about myself. I was a member of Water Polo Canada, trained with the 2008 Beijing Olympic team, and I saved a drowning couple in Mexico one time. I was laying on the beach in Cancun, saw these people yelling for help in the water, swam out, pulled the lady in, went back, pulled the guy in. Love sharing this little story for those who might be swimmers out there. You know, it's a great skill to have. Now, it's a pleasure and an honor to have my colleague Indika Wijayasuriya joining us from Sri Lanka today. Indika is our instructor and VR AR developer here at CircuitStream. He's been developing for XR, extended reality, I'll get into that a little bit more, for over 5 years now. And Indika himself, a little icebreaker, loves getting lost in long conversations, especially around technology. So there's Indika in the chat there. Say hi to Indika. Indika will be answering questions throughout the workshop and at the very end spending more time in that live Q&A session. But Indika, pleasure to have you. Thank you very much for being with me here today. So for those of you who are new to us here at CircuitStream, who is CircuitStream? What do we do? Well, CircuitStream was founded in 2015 when everyone was on the hype train to start building and working with VR, AR applications. We noticed the gap in actually helping people learn how to develop their own VR and AR experiences. And since then, we've reached over 40,000 learners in how to design, develop, and implement both virtual reality and augmented reality experiences from scratch. Now, CircuitStream is also a Unity certified training and channel partners, and partners are approved based on their expertise, focus on quality education, and commitment to providing the highest level of training available. And for those of you who might not know, Unity actually covers about 60% of the XR market. All of the VR AR content out there in the market globally, 60% of it is made using the Unity engine. And one of the reasons why we love focusing on Unity here at CircuitStream. Now, we're certified experts, professionals, and authorized training partners, as I mentioned here earlier. But it's great to have you all here today to really kickstart and show you how to build your own VR museum. So we're a team of about 20, located all around the world, mainly in North America, South America, with colleagues in Asia and Europe as well. For instance, Indika and Sri Lanka, coming from all different backgrounds, really working together to promote this technology to all different industries. Now, since 2015, we've always focused on education, training and upskilling others around the world on how to work with VR and AR. And these are just some of the companies that we've had the pleasure to teach and help implement this technology at their workplaces, or just to upskill and get started with it themselves. From Apple to the US Navy, Boeing, Facebook, various post-secondary institutions and universities, to Hershey's, the chocolate company. That chocolate's going to be delicious, you better believe it. But it's been a pleasure and an honor to have not only enterprises and professionals join us, but fresh graduates, youth, retirees, you name it, people exploring, looking to invest into this. Now, as I mentioned, we've been focusing on education since 2015. And we have a couple of training programs available for those who are interested in upskilling themselves, getting started with it, learning how to speak to it better, wrapping their heads around it. And both of these courses here on the screen are beginner-friendly programs. No previous experience required. I'll go dive into it a little bit more later on. But we have a development-focused course, more of the technical aspects, coding and scripting in Unity, beginner friendly, 10 weeks long. Similarly, we have a design oriented course, the interaction design and prototyping for XR. This one's more focused on user experience, designing, prototyping, mocking experiences up and testing with users. But I'll dive into it a little bit later on here today. And what's the value really? What differentiates us from a lot of the other folks out there? Well, it's the live mentorship and the one-on-one support that we offer with the programs as well, where we help each student in open office hours or private one-on-one sessions to help them really upskill, learn, and take away the things that they're building or working on. Now, we do also provide team training opportunities as well. If you've got a group of colleagues interested in learning all together, family maybe perhaps, we do have group deals and trainings available for those who are interested. Now, I'll ask you all, go to the polls tab because I'm going to toss in a poll here right now. And I love asking this question in all of our workshops and webinars. On a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being never heard of Unity, 10 being you're an expert in Unity. On a scale of 0 to 10, how much experience do you have with Unity? So I'm going to toss in the poll here. That's in the polls tab, that third tab there. Publishing the poll now. Curious to know. It helps us really understand who's in the audience. How slow do we need to go? How quick do we need to go? Beginners, more advanced. So I'm going to check out the submissions here. It looks like it's quite a beginner audience. We've got 1s, 2s, 3s, 0s, intermediate as well, some 5s there too. So I would say it's more of a beginner intermediate crowd. Not too many advanced learners. I do see some 9s and 7s here. Great to have you all. I'm sure you'll take something away here as well. But for those of you who said 0, what is Unity? Well, Unity is a free 3D development engine for building games, simulations, and experiences. Beth, I just saw your question there in the chat. No worries. Yes, feel free to go to your meeting. This is all recorded, and we will send the recording afterwards to everyone. Thank you for the question there. We'll send it over to everyone. Now, Unity is the easiest way to begin making apps for XR. Now, XR stands for extended reality, and that's an umbrella term for the industry that captures both virtual reality, augmented reality, and you could also include mixed reality in there. Those three terms, AR, VR, and MR, simply added to XR to keep it all clean, concise. And how does one actually go about, creating their own idea or project? I want to build my own VR museum. How do I go about that? Well, you have this idea, let's say the VR museum, and you bring it into an engine like Unity. And that's where you develop and design it and optimize it. And once that's completed, you use one of the SDKs to push it out to the headsets that you want to develop it for. You can build it for any headset, really. Just a little step to do at the end to push it out to those headsets you want it for. But again, quite an easy workflow. You've got an idea, you build it in Unity, you push it out to the devices, and voila, you've got your own experience, VR museum perhaps, to show for. So now that you've learned a little bit about us here today, what are you going to learn on this webinar workshop? Well, you're going to learn how to set up a VR project in Unity 3D. Then we'll show you how to build a Unity environment, the basics of VR scene building, and how to use baking lights in Unity as well. Now, again, this is all recorded. We will send the recording and project files resources out afterwards by email. So I would say sit back, relax, soak it all in, ask questions, observe, and we'll all send it over for you to review afterwards, slow it down, pause it, whatever it may be. But it's time to build a VR museum. So with this, I would love to take the moment to invite Indica onto the stage here. Indica, great having you with us. Not sure if your cam is on or off. It's not on for myself here. I see a very cool logo, but a pleasure and an honor to have you here with us today, Indica. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you very much, Steph, for inviting me. I'm honored. So there you go. I can see Andrew, I can see Ralph, Eli, a lot of familiar faces in the audience. All good. So let's get this started. I believe you guys can hear me. and see me very well.
Yes, I can hear you. See you, Danelle. Great seeing you in the chat there as well. But Indica, this is all yours for the next 30 to 45 minutes. You're all in great hands. Again, this is all recorded. So sit back, relax, check it out, observe, ask questions, really look into it. Follow along if you'd like, but I'd suggest take a look at it, use the recording and files afterwards to really work it, slow it down, and build it yourself. But you're all in great hands. I'll be back in about 30, 45 minutes. Indica, thank you very much. I'll see you soon.
All right, let's get this started. So I'm going to share my screen, and there we go. All right, so before doing anything, if you want to follow along with me, all right, let me just allow this. There we go. I believe you can see my screen. Right, so I'm going to put a link here. So if anybody wants to follow along with me, I'm going to be going a little bit faster because we have a lot to cover within just, um, with 45 within 45 minutes. So if you, I just put this link, go to that and download this museum.workshop.unity package. It's about 30 megabytes, so you might be able to download it within a minute. All right, so you have to open up Unity Hub. So if you're familiar with Unity, you basically need to download Unity Hub. You go to unity.com and download Unity Hub. So through Unity Hub, you'll be able to install the Unity version that you want to run. So if you want to, if you have this Unity Hub, this is actually the very latest version of the Unity Hub. You might see something different than this, but it's fine. Everything is pretty much similar. So go to the install section and install editor. From here, you can download the 2020.3.LTS version. You click here and go to install. Select the Android build support and this too as well, and click continue. So I'm not going to do that because I already have that with me. I'm going to be creating a new project, right? So I'm going to click projects and I'm going to create new project over here. And I'm going to choose URP. It is known for Universal Render Pipeline. It is basically a method that defines a new way of rendering 3D models and everything in Unity. So it's performance-wise, it's really good. It's very optimized for virtual reality as well. So I'm going to be using that. And over here, I'm going to be using 2020.3 version. 0.8 is the version that I have. You might be able to get the very latest version of this. That's okay. So I'm going to be using 2020.3 point something. Right. So over here, I can set up the location. And one more important thing, please give a name for your project. Right. So it can be VR, museum, da-da-da-da-da. Right. So Unity Hub 3 should be available in updates. Not really. You need to download the beta version because it's still in beta. Right. Just search for Unity Hub beta and you'll be able to download that and replace your Hub version. Anyway, so I'm not going to do this right now because it might take a little bit of time. Don't want to waste your precious time here. I already have the project open. So I'm going to close this. And this is what you would see right when you create a new project. All right. So I'm gonna be taking a couple of minutes to give you an introduction to this. Basically, in the middle, what you see here is the scene view. Right. You can right click, and while holding your right click, you can move your mouse up and down. And while holding your right click, you can press W to move forward, S to move backwards, A to move sideways, and D to move to the right side. So you can use them, and you can use them all together, and you'll be able to navigate throughout this scene. So navigating is pretty important. So if you're a really a beginner to Unity, you basically need to learn these shortcuts. Right click, look up and down, W, A, S, and D to move around. Right. So in your right hand side, in your left hand side, you'll be able to see the hierarchy window. This consists of all of the game objects, all of the objects in the scene, right? As example, if you see here, if I select the main camera, you'll be able to see a camera over here. If I select the example assets, and maybe I can expand them. So these are groups. These are known as parent objects. and these are known as child objects. So Kathleen, I'm just giving a little bit of an introduction to Unity. So this is going to be recorded, so you'll be able to follow along later on as well. So all right, okay. So when you click the yes, you can do that. Basically, the keys that you're using to play games, you know, you the keys that you're using to play games. So you'll be able to use ZQSD to do that. No worries on that. All right. So when you select an object right here, in your right hand side, you'll be able to see something called the inspector window. And these are the things that we need to configure. Basically, when you select a game object is pretty much consists of things called components. So what you see right here are components. You have the transform component, you have the camera component, you have, basically a bunch of components. You also can add new components by pressing this button right here. Right. So the last thing that I want to show you is the project window. It is way underneath right over here. So basically, you will be able to get all of the assets, the 3D models, textures, audios, and everything right over here. So basically, this is just an introduction to the whole Unity interface. I can take actually 2 to 3 hours to just talk about the interface of this, because there's that much of things to learn. But basically, those are the basics, right? And the other thing is, you can select any of these objects, right? And over here, you'll be able to see some buttons. So this one is the move tool, where you can move this up and down. And right over here, you can see a rotate tool. And using these handles, you'll be able to rotate these 3D models, right? And the other one is the scale tool, where you can, by holding your mouse, holding your mouse click and moving this up and down, you'll be able to scale these objects. Alrighty. Anyway, so we are not going to be talking about all of this. We are basically going to create something from scratch, right? So just before that, right, I'm going to be installing a lot of packages and a lot of content into this. So basically sit back and relax and note down all the things that I do. So if you miss one of those things, sometimes your project might not work, right? All right, so let's get this started. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my scenes folder right here. I'm going to right click over here, and I'm going to go to create and create a new scene. And over here, I'm going to rename this as museum. And I'm going to double click and open this up. I'm not going to save the current scene because I'm not going to be using that. So as you can see here, this is an empty scene where there's nothing in it. All right, so now I'm going to set up the virtual reality components on this, so that way I can enable this to work with my Oculus Rift or my Oculus Quest. Right, so to do that, I need to install some plugins. So let's do that. I'm going to go to Window menu right over here, and I'm going to go to Package Manager, right? And let's wait. And over here, there is a drop down, and I can choose the Unity registry, right? And at the very bottom, there is something called XR Plugin Management. I'm going to click it, and right over here, there is an install button that I can press and install. So it will install all the files that are required to build some sort of a VR application. Right. Okay, so we are not going to be doing a lot of C# scripting today. We are going to be like setting up the whole scene with a package called XR Interaction Toolkit, right? So that way we can without doing without doing a lot of coding, we'll have a lot of components with us. So we're going to be using them, right? So anyway, let's wait until this thing loads, because Unity can take some time to do everything. There you go. All right, now I'm going to click this button right here, this settings wheel right here, and I'm going to go to Advanced Project Settings. And over here, I can see something called Enable Preview Packages. right? And I'm going to click I understand. The reason for me to doing this is because um, you know, XR interaction toolkit is pretty much still in beta, right? So we are using a beta package to work with this. Don't worry, everything will work out because I'm using that for about a year now. All right. So over here, you'll be able to see the in the package manager. If you scroll all the way down, there is something called XR interaction toolkit, and it is at to preview. So I'm going to click install, and I'm going to install this. So installing that might take a little bit of time, right? And over right over here, so it might take let's say about 1 to 2 minutes. There we go. All right. Okay. So all right, let's see. All right. So Unity can actually take some time to load everything. I think Andrew can vouch me on that. All right. So when you install the XR interaction toolkit, it might ask you to restart the whole project. So I'm going to click this. Yes. So it might take a little bit of time to restart everything because it needs to refresh everything. Right. So let's see. All right. Cool. There we go. Unity gave up on me, and it's starting right away. There you go. It's coming up. Come on, Unity. Da, 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 da. Yeah. So I'm curious what Andrew has been like. Oh, Andrew has been like working on like very huge project that takes like 40 hours to load, right? Let's see. So while this is loading up, how much free space do you need in your disk to drive and install and work with Unity? Probably about 10 to 20 gigabytes altogether, right? So basically, just to install Unity, it might require about 5 gigabytes. And after that, to install Android and all of these plugins, you might require about three to four more gigabytes of storage. All right. Anyway, so now that I installed and restarted, I'm going to go back into this XR interaction toolkit. And this is a really important step. Uh, you select this XR interaction toolkit again, and right over here, there is something called samples. Expand that and import this default input actions. All right, there you go. That's pretty much it. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to close this as well. So there is one more thing for me to do. Right, I'm going to go to edit, and I'm going to go to project settings. So right over here, there is something called XR plugin management. I'm going to do that. I'm going to select that. And right over here, you can see something called Oculus. So I'm going to be creating this for an Oculus Quest, which I have right here. So if you are building this for an HTC Vive or any other VR headsets, you can use OpenXR. But right now, since I'm using the Oculus Quest, I'm going to be ticking off Oculus. So this might take another 1 to 2 minutes to configure everything because Unity likes loading things. All right. Alrighty. Using prefab. This one, I'm actually not going to be going too technical about this. Basically, I'm just explaining about the different components of the Unity interface. And I'm going to be using a lot of components, a lot of scripts that were already made by XR Interaction Toolkit. So not a lot of coding, anybody else who can just drag and drop things will be easily able to follow along and understand. So there we go. I just take this Oculus, and now this project is ready for VR. All right. So the next thing that I'm going to do is, so this is my whole museum scene, right? I'm going to XR interaction subsystems. So if you don't have XR interaction toolkit, you need to go to package manager and select this thing, this button. Go to advanced project settings, and you need to enable preview packages. Without that, you won't be able to see the preview packages in your list. All right. Okay. Anyway, you're going to be getting access to this project file as well. So if you miss something, just it's fine. Just follow along. Just not follow along. I mean, like sit back and relax, and just see what I'm doing. All right. Cool. So in my hierarchy, first of all, I'm going to right click and I'm going to create a 3D object. And that 3D object is going to be a plane, right? I need to have a plane, basically a flow so that I can move around. So I'm going to get closer to that. So this is my plane. And on top of that plane, I'm going to right click again and I'm going to XR and I'm going to choose XR rig. All right. So before that, there is something else that I forgot to do. So after you're importing all the XR toolkits and everything, you need to go to the samples folder in your projects folder, expand that, expand XR interaction toolkit, expand 1.00 something, and select default input actions, right? So right over here, you can zoom this down all the way. And you can see here that there are something called XRI default left controller and the right controller. So I'm going to click the left controller right here. And in my inspector window, I can see a button which says add to action based controller default. So I'm going to click it. And I'm going to do the same thing for my right controller as well. And I'm going to click this. Now I need to go to edit project settings. So, a lot of configurations, I know. um, you need to go to preset manager, and here you'll be able to see your XRI default right controller and the left controller, right? So you can click here and name this as right, and click here and name this as left, right? So here, basically why we do this is because the latest Unity XR interaction toolkit uses the latest input actions, the latest input methods that Unity is using. It is known as the input system package. The old input manager is now deprecated. Don't worry about it. Just follow along with me, and you're going to be good. All right. So now, since I've done that, I'm going to right click here. I'm going to go to XR and I'm going to choose XR rig action based. All right. So basically this is you. When you put on your VR glass, this cube, this green color cube is going to be you, right? It is you just moving around. So basically currently you're just floating out of the plane. So you basically need to like move your thing over here. So the easiest way that I can do is in my transform, I'm going to set position to 0. And also I'm going to select my plane here, position of that to 0, 0, 0. There we go. All right, now I'm going to scale this plane by 2 by 2 by 2. So now I kind of have some sort of a good space around. All right, now the next thing that I'm going to do is to import all the assets that I gave you, right? If you go to this link, you'll be able to download this Unity package, and I'm going to import this Unity package into my project. All right, so let me go to File. Oops, sorry. Let me go to Assets, and there is something called Import Package, and I'm going to choose Custom Package. And I'm going to choose this Museum Workshop Unity package, and I'm going to click Open. Any Stardew Valley fans? Anyone who's playing Stardew Valley? All right, so anyway, so once you do that, you'll be able to see a lot of things right here, right? So I'm going to click Import, and it will start importing all the assets, all the packages all the things that I use in this project. So let's wait a little bit until everything downloads. Imports, I guess. All right, there you go. So once you do that, you'll be able to see a folder right here called Museum Workshop. And if you go into the Museum Workshop, you'll be able to see a folder called 3D Models, right? So inside the 3D models, I have a bunch of vessels, right? So these are the vessels that I'm going to explain. So if you click this over here, you can see a vessel, right? So this is a museum, right? I need to have some sort of artifacts to show in a museum. So I have vessels and I have everything put together right here. All right. So also, if you go to this textures folder, there are like a bunch of images that you can see, right? There is something called Circuit Stream Museum of Artifacts. There is something called Wooden Floor and some text as well, right? So I am going to create something called a material, right? A material in Unity is basically used to color. So I am going to go into this materials folder right here, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to create a new material, and I'm going to rename that as flow, right? Now I'm going to drag this flow material on top of my plane, right? I'm just going to drag it like this. See what I'm doing? And I'm going to drop it. So this is basically my flow. Now I'm going to click my flow material right over here, and the inspector window, I can see there is something called the base map. So I'm going to click this dot right next to this base map, which will give me this kind of a thing. And I'm going to search for flow. And you'll be able to see something called wooden floor. And I'm going to select that. Oh, voila, there you go. Now you have some sort of a wooden floor that you can walk around. All right, now I'm going to increase the tiling of that. So over here, you can see something called tiling. And I'm going to set maybe 5 by 5. Now you can see a really, really good looking flow material. All right, so I'm going to create 4 walls around this, right? So that way I can create kind of a space around this, right? So to do that, I'm going to right click here and I'm going to create a 3D object and create a cube, right? So you can see that cube right underneath, right? So for a new material, right click, create new material. That material is going to be wall. And I'm going to set the smoothness of that material all the way down to 0. And I'm going to drag and drop this wall material on top of my cube right over here. Now, I'm going to select that cube, right? And I'm going to set some values. I'm going to look from the top, and I'm going to set some values in my transform. I'm going to set the position to 0, 0, 0 first. And now I can see that my cube is right over here. And I'm going to set the x value of this to 10 and the y value of this to 5, or maybe 2 is enough. And the scale, the y scale of this to about 5, x scale about this to maybe 0.5, and the z scale about 20, right? So this, there you go. I have a flow right over here. Now I'm going to duplicate that by pressing Control D, or you can right click this cube and select duplicate, right? And over here, so here, I'm actually not doing any 3D modeling. I'm just using all the primitives to create a room for my VR setup. All right. So this one, I'm going to set the X value to -10, and that's it. So I'm going to get another copy of this by pressing Control D. I'm going to rotate this about 90 degrees. Position is going to be, let's say it should be something like this. All right, so the position is going to be x to 0, y to 2, 2.5 would be good, 2.5. So this one, 2.5. and this one 2.5, and this one right here, it's going to be minus 10, right? Another duplicate, and this one y value is going to be 10. All right, there we go. I have a room. All right, so I'm going to get another copy of this cube, right? And I'm going to put it in the middle. So x, y, and z are going to be 0. Basically, I can set the z value of this about 5. Oops, sorry. Y value of this about 5. And y to 20. All right, there you go. Now I have a VR museum. All right, so let me get inside of this. Da-da-da. There you go. All right. So one of the things that I wanted to explain in this workshop is about baking lights, right? So as you can see here, that inside this museum, it's kind of dull, right? You cannot see any lighting here. It's a bit dull, right? So we are going to do a little bit of baking time to baked, right? And also, I'm going to create a new light, which is called the area light inside my VR room. All right, I think I might be having a little bit of network issues. Hold on, let me see. Da-da-da-da-da. All right, yeah, I'm running with a fast 3 megabytes per second speed here in Sri Lanka. All right, so as you can see your okay, let me turn my video off. All right, okay, so the bandwidth is going to thank me now. All right, so as long as you can see my screen, that's all I want, and hear my voice. All right, thank you for letting me know, Andrew. All right, so anyway, cool. So over here, I'm going to add a new light, right? So I'm going to right click this, and I'm going to go to light, and I'm going to add this thing called area light, right? Area light. So you can see here that this area light is way over here, right? It's out of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this area light inside my museum, right? So I'm going to look from the top angle, and I can move this light into this. And also I can scale this light. So I'm not sure whether you guys can see this. If you move your mouse over here, you'll be able to scale the light just like this. It's a little bit hard to manipulate. So you need to use your move tool, or maybe you can use your this tool, and there we go. You can scale this, right? There you go. So I'm going to scale this so I can like fit everything inside, and I'm going to put the whole thing inside of my museum. There you go. All right, so now I have a light inside my museum, which is not really visible. And I'm going to look from the other side, and I'm going to put this a little bit up. All right, so let me go inside the museum, and you can see that this light is taking up the whole space. So I think I might be able to reduce the size of this a little too bit. So let me just look from the top view. And there you go. All right. Okay. All right, now I'm going to do some light baking. So first of all, I'm going to select my floor, my walls by pressing my shift key, and also my roof. And in my mesh renderer, there is something called contribute global illumination. And I'm going to tick this off. Contribute to global illumination. Ta-da. All right, now that I contributed to global illumination, I'm going to save my scene, and I'm going to go to Window, go to Rendering, and I'm going to select Lighting. So here I have some lighting settings. So I'm going to dock this window right over here. I'm going to go to my Scenes folder, and I'm going to click New Lighting Settings. And right over here, I'm going to select say museum. All right, so now that I have lighting settings, I'm going to set the max light map size to about 256. You know, if you set this max light map size to like 4096, it's going to give you a really quality scene, you know, and also it might take a fraction of your lifetime to do the whole building light baking thing. I think Andrew can vouch for me on that, right? So I'm going to be choosing 256, right? And also I'm going to click generate lighting right over here. So as soon as I do that, you'll be able to see inside this, it's kind of refreshing everything and slowly doing some process. Let's see what's happening right over here. Okay, it's doing its process. Oh, there you go. I can see something. Oh, wow. There you go. So the process right here is known as light baking. What actually happens here is that, oh, what is this? There are some light leaks inside of this. All right, I think it's doing its process. I don't know what's happening right here. It's doing the baking. You can see here that it's taking up the whole museum and building its light. I think I need to change the color of the light. I think I have set a very bad value of that. So let me go to area light and go to inspector. And the color of this is yellowish. So I'm going to set a white color to this. And also I'm going to decrease the intensity to about 1. I'm going to go to lighting, cancel this, and I'm going to click generate lighting again. First of all, I'm going to click this thing and I'm going to clear baked data. I'm going to press this. All right. Cool. So let's see. Sunscreen, the museum. There you go. It's building its light. There you go. You can see a cool looking scene right here. Now we have a cool looking museum. There we go. Alrighty, alrighty, alrighty. All right, so basically the reason that you need to do light baking is if you are using real-time lighting, the real-time lighting, it can take a lot of processing power of your computer or your basically your processing power or maybe of the PC or the Oculus, right? So if you build lighting, basically what they do is you can also see, I'm not sure, I think this needs to stop doing everything. Like once this is stopped, you'll be able to see a separate folder with images of your whole render, right? I think it's still rendering. As you can see at the very top right here, this part, it doesn't, it's not covered with the light. So it's darkened a little bit. So you might need to work on this a little bit more to get a really good lighting, right? So yeah, this thing keeps spinning. This thing can take like maybe about. All right, so it says that it has like 1 minute left. So let's watch for that and let's give that time. Or let's do something cool. I'm going to close this, taking my processing power a lot. But I can see a really nice looking museum scene right here. All right, so I'm not okay. I thought of skipping a little bit ahead, right? So I think we're good. Oh, 4 seconds left. All right, there you go. All right, now you can see that it has created a new folder right here called museum. If you open up this folder, you can see a bunch of images with different lights, right? See, this is really awesome. So basically this is known as baking lights, right? So that way you'll be able to create a very good looking scene, right? And it's going to be like performance wise, it's going to be really, really awesome. All right, so I'm going to save this scene. I already have a scene that I already made for the workshop. So I'm going to open that up. You also have access to this with the files that you downloaded. So you need to go to Museum Workshop. Yeah, I too have a Peanut PC, so maybe that's the reason that I'm breaking out a little bit now for. So yeah, don't worry about it. So I'm running with the Peanut PC as well. All right. So anyway, I'm gonna go to my scenes folder, and oh man, I don't think I have that. All right. So anyway, let's just keep this for now. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new cube, and I'm going to take that cube right over here, and I'm going to add the pillar material that I can find in my project files, and I'm going to create a little bit of a pillar right here. There you go. That's a nice looking pillar. Right. So on top of this pillar, I'm going to, if you go to prefabs, sorry, if you go to 3D models, there is something called sources, and here I have a vessel. So I'm going to drag and drop this vessel, and using my scale tool, I'm going to scale this. There we go. Nice. There you go. Right, that's a cool looking vessel. Alrighty. Okay, so now what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to allow the user to like navigate around this space. So there are like a couple of things that I need to do. I'm going to click my XR rig, and I'm going to add a component to this, and that component is known as input action manager, right? And action assets right over here. I'm going to expand this, click the plus button, and I'm going to click this tick right here, and I'm going to choose XRI default input actions. And I'm going to add a new component, and that component is known as locomotion system. And there you go. So it asked for an XR rig. So I'm going to drag this XR rig, and I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to add another component, and that is going to be teleportation provider. This one right here, right? And I'm going to drag this locomotion system and drop on top of this. All right, so now I have a scene where I can teleport, but I need to mention an area that I can teleport. I'm going to click my flow right here, right? The flow, and I'm going to add a component right over here. And that component is known as teleportation area, right? Teleportation area. Now you'll be able to teleport within this space with no issue. All right. Now this is basically the basically this is the the artifact that I want to showcase. So I'm going to go to materials, and you can see here the artifact is here, but it is not very lightened up. So let's do something cool. So inside the assets that I provided, there is a material called sky, right? It is basically a sky material that I created. So I'm going to go out of this world, and I'm going to drag my sky and drop on top of the sky box. There you go. So now everything is white. I can even go into this, and now I can see that this vessel is still a little bit not good. So I'm going to go to my lighting settings. I'm going to go to environment. Let's see whether I can increase the intensity of this a little bit. All right, there you go. All right, so this one also, I'm going to select this pillar. I'm going to go to inspector, and I'm going to contribute this to global illumination as well. So when I do a bake again, this thing is also going to be baked, and it's going to be really, really cool. All right. Now, there is something else that I need to do. Basically, what I want to do is to put some information behind this. I already have a texture. I already have something called Lequitos. So basically, this is a sprite. So I'm going to drag this sprite. Okay, let me just get outside of this. And I'm going to drag this sprite and drop on top of this. There you go. Lequitos, 440 BC. Hypnos and Thanatos. I don't know what this is. I just copied it from the Wikipedia. So courtesy to Wikipedia. There you go. All right, so I'm going to scale this, and I'm going to put this on the wall. Let me see whether I can put this on the wall. There we go. I'm going to rotate this of about 90 degrees. Oh, what happened? All right, using my mode tool. There you go. Lequitos. All right, so now, oh, this is too. All right, let me just take it a bit over here. All right, so there you go. So now I have some sort of information on my wall. And what I want to do is, since this is a VR museum, I want to have some sort of a button right here so that I will be able to hear something, able to hear a narration of this artifact, right? So let's quickly do that, right? With the time frames that I have available right now, I'm going to right click and I'm going to select something called UI because we are talking about buttons, right? So buttons is basically user interfaces. So I'm going to go to UI and I'm going to select button, this one right here. And you can see a huge button kind of came up, right? So I'm going to fix that. So let me go into this, right? So I'm going to get this canvas and I'm going to select the canvas. And right over here, I'm going to change the render mode of this to world space. And right over here, the position, I'm going to set this to 0, 0, 0. Now my canvas is right over here. And also the scale, I'm going to change this to 0 0.01, 0 0.01, and 0 0.01. I think it's still pretty big. So let me just choose 0 0.005, 0 0.005, and 0 0.005. All right, it's 25, 005. And there we go. I have the button right over here. So I'm going to select this button and I'm going to choose my rect transform tool to increase the button all the way like this. Or maybe I can select this thing right over here and pressing shift and alt key, I'm going to press the button right over here. So it will expand to its, whole thing. And I'm going to select my canvas and I'm going to reduce the size of this canvas so that it will be like a button right over here. All right, so I'm going to paste this button on top of this pillar. So let me get my move tool and my rotation tool. I'm going to rotate this around 90 degrees and I'm going to use my move tool so that I can paste it on top of this. There you go. Ta-da, ta-da, ta-da. Cool. All right, now I'm going to select this button. I'm going to expand this and I'm going to select this text. I'm going to remove it. I don't need that anymore. All right, so I'm going to select the button. So as you can see here, there are like a couple of buttons that I have added right here. So I'm going to drag this icon feather info and drop on top of this UI sprite like this. Ta-da! Oh, that's a very big button. So let me just change the size of this. All right, so I'm going to put it right over here. Okay, this is nice. Also, I'm going to select my button and there is something called button right over here. And I'm going to change the transition of this from color tint to sprite swap. Right, I'm going to change the sprites based on your inputs. And I'm going to drag this this one right here as the highlighted sprite, sorry, pressed sprite. For the highlighted one, I'm going to put this. And the selected one, I'm going to drag and drop this. All right, so there we go. All right, cool. Now I'm going to do a little bit of coding. Just before that, because I want to like play some sound effects. In Unity, there is something called audio source in order to play sound effects, right? So I'm going to select my canvas and I'm going to click add component right here. And that component is going to be audio source right over here. Right, so now it is requesting an audio clip. It says whether you want to play on awake and things like that. But if you select this audio source, you can see here that this audio source has some sort of a sphere around it. This sphere is actually the 3D sphere that you'll be able to hear your sound, right? Because you want this sound to be heard only if you are really, really close to this, right? Closer to this. So let's see how we can do that. The first thing that I'm going to do is in my audio source, I'm going to set this spatial blend from 2D all the way to 3D. right? And also there is something called 3D sound settings, and there is something called minimum distance and a maximum distance. I'm going to set the minimum distance to 0.1 and the maximum distance to 1. Right? So when I do that, you can see here that there is another sphere right over here. So I can even expand this. So this sound will only be heard if you are inside this circle, right? If you go out of this circle, you won't be able to hear that sound. All right. And the other setting that I want to change is I want to go to volume roll off, and I'm going to change this from logarithmic roll off to linear roll off. All right, cool. Now, basically what I want to do is if I press this button with my controller, I want to hear a sound, right? So you don't really need to do any of the coding. I have done the coding for you. I'll explain what that coding does, right? So if you go to this scripts folder, there is something called sound player, right? Sound player. So this sound player, if I double click and open this up in with my Visual Studio, basically what I have done here is, okay, so let's wait until this opens up. There we go. Right. So I'm not gonna go, explain everything about C sharp, the matter of time. So there is something called public audio clip. This is basically a variable that will hold, uh, an audio clip, right? And also there is an audio source. Basically, it is requesting the audio source component, basically the player that needs to play that sound. And in my start method, I have get the component of the audio source from the canvas and put that as a reference. And I have a method called toggle sound, which will, toggle the sound, whether it will play the sound, or if the sound is playing, it will stop the sound, or if it is not playing, it will play the sound again. All right. So this is basically what it does. All right. So let me click my canvas, and I'm going to scroll all the way down, and I'm going to add component, and that component is going to be the name of it. This is going to be sound player. Ta-da! There we go. All right, now it is requesting a sound right here. All right. So if you go to the sounds folder that I gave you, there are a bunch of sounds. I'm not sure whether you will be able to hear it, but I'm going to get this audio lekatoy. I'm going to drop on top of here. Audio lekatoy, right? All right. So now everything is set up. I can move around. And the only thing that I need to set up is pressing the buttons with my trigger, right? Pressing these buttons with my trigger. All right, so I'm going to go to my canvas, right? And over here, sorry, not the canvas. In my event system, there is something called standalone input module. I'm going to click the 3 dots right over here, and I'm going to remove this component, right? And I'm going to add a new component, and that component is known as XRUI input module, right? So this thing will figure out all the inputs from the controllers. And also I'm going to select my canvas and going to scroll all the way down and add a component, and that component is going to be tracked device physics raycaster. All right, that's a funny name, track device physics raycaster. So I'm going to click that. Oh, sorry, not the physics raycaster, my bad. So let me remove this. So it's going to be tracked device graphic raycaster. My bad. There we go. All right, so that is pretty much it. All right, so basically I already have a scene provided to you. So this is the scene that we built using baking lighting and implementing the VR scene. I can see the VR rig right here, but I also have given you access to the final scene. So if you go to the scenes folder right here, you'll be able to see something called museum final. Double click and open that up. There we go. So just like that, instead of just the Lequitos thing, artifact, I have 2 more artifacts called dinos and oinoche, right? And also it says that this is the circuit stream museum of artifacts. And there we go. And I have the XR rig in the middle. All right, so let's see a demo of this. I don't think, I also need to showcase how the sound of this works, but I'm not sure how this works. So basically, I already captured a little bit of video of this. So I'm going to play that right now. So let me go to share. Let me go to share video. All right, there we go. All right, so I believe you can hear me. So basically I'm in it and I can see my controllers are working and I can use my grab key to move around, right? So I'm just looking around and using my grab key, I can teleport now on the floor. Now I'm getting closer to the Lakitos one, right? This one right here. And I'm going to point my
A lekithos,
right
plural
to this, and I'm going
lekithoi,
to press
is a
trigger.
type of
Oh,
ancient
there you
Greek
go.
vessel used for storing oil, especially olive oil. It has a narrow body.
All right, so I'm going to stop that. I'm going to go to the other one, which is called dinos. I don't know what that is. I'm going to go next to that, and I'm going to do a little bit of an inspection of this artifact. Ooh, this is nice. All right, so I'm going to play that as well.
In the typology of ancient Greek pottery, the dinos,
All
plural
right, so while
dinoi,
this is
is a
playing, I'm
mixing
going to go
bowl or
away from
cauldron.
this.
Dinos means drinking
Right.
cup.
Now you can see that, automatically the sound kind of goes away because it's 3D sound and you don't want that to be heard. You only
An
want that to be
inakawi,
heard when
also
you're like
spelled
really close to them.
inakawi, is a
Let me
wine
play
jug
this
and a
as
key
well.
form of ancient Greek pottery. Intermediate between a pithos, large
Ooh,
storage
there we go.
vessel, or amphora, transport vessel, and individual cups or
All right, let me
bowls.
stop
It held
this. Let me
fluid.
just go. All right, let me just get out of this. All right, so now this thing has stopped playing. There we go. It's dinos. I'm gonna go back, and I'm going to go back to the place that I started. There you go. Circuit Stream Museum of Artifacts. There we go. So that is pretty much it, guys. So I'm gonna give the stage back to Steph. I think I used my 45 minutes. Steph, if you can jump in and continue the session, I'm gonna head off. Is Steph here? Do I have to continue the do I have to continue the session? Let me just get myself up. Hey guys, that's me. All right, so there you go.
Hello. I was booted out here for a second, but I'm back. Indica, thank you so much for your time here today to show us how to kickstart your own VR museum here. And with this, I'm going to take about 5 minutes to wrap things up, conclude it, share some resources. But before I do continue on, please go to the polls tab. I'm going to toss in one last poll here for the workshop and webinar. And this will be how likely you are to recommend this workshop to others. So on a scale of 0 to 10, again, please go to the polls tab. I'll be tossing into the poll here shortly. This poll will help us really understand if we should continue holding these free workshops and webinars, introductory ones or more advanced ones. If we get great reviews, we'll be sure to continue on. If not, we'll have to think about what other content to put out. But I'm going to toss in the poll here on a scale of 0 to 10. How likely are you to recommend this workshop to others? 0, you wouldn't recommend it to anyone. 10, you would recommend it to others to get started with Unity, maybe learn something, kickstart their own project there. But do go to the polls tab, and that really helps us out. Really helps us out if we should continue holding these workshops and webinars. But without further ado, let me just continue on here, wrap things up for 5 minutes. We'll come back. We'll do our Q&A session for about 15, 20 minutes or so. But with this, again, Indica, thank you so much for your time here today. Really do appreciate it. For some next steps, if someone is interested in diving into VR, AR themselves to start creating their own projects and experiences, we have 2 beginner-friendly programs, and this is the first program I want to share with you, the XR Development with Unity course. Now, all of our courses are live and online, instructor-led, project-based, 10 weeks long with 3 hours of live class instruction per week and 5 open office hours every single day. Daily, sorry, 1 open office hour daily for 5 total throughout the week for additional support if you need help elsewhere. Now, this development course does focus on the more technical aspects, C# scripting in Unity, really implementing XR solutions, and project-based as well. Several portfolio pieces to build out and add to your portfolio by the end of the 10 weeks with us. And we hold our courses every 2.5 months or so. Next one's on September 14th, followed by November 30th. And I think that's the last one of 2021. I was going to say 2020, 2021. Then we'll have 5 in the next year, about in 2022 there. Now, we do have another beginner-friendly program for the designers out there, the artists. It's the Interaction Design and Prototyping for XR course. Similarly, 10 weeks long, 8 hours of live instruction per week. 3 of those are in class with 5 open office hours. And this one really focuses on user experience. You know, what are the solutions that you can come about to implement later on? This one goes into techniques for creating XR prototypes, designing AR, VR for web or mobile-based applications, headsets as well. But if you're interested in checking it out, I'll share a link here later on for you to download a syllabus and just to look over the material, see if it's something you're interested in getting into. Now, for both of the courses and programs, we do offer Credly badges and certificates afterwards with a voucher to take a Unity certification exam. So you won't only be certified by CircuitStream, but you'll also have the option to be Unity certified afterwards. These courses do help you prepare for those exams that we actually help build for Unity for the most part there. Now, exciting community and support that we offer here, a large Slack channel and large XR community, office hours 5 times per week. We have events every week, coffee hours, show and tell, demo days as well. And really try and engage all of our community, whether you're students, alumni or not, just someone like-minded individuals interested in this. Feel free to join us. We would love to have you with us and in any of the events we hold each week. Now, for those who are interested in one of the 2 courses that I shared, the XR development or the XR design, it starts off at $39.50, and we do have payment plans and financing options available. Our starter pack includes the 10-week course and program, as well as that Unity certification voucher I mentioned. Take it afterwards whenever you'd like to become Unity certified as well. And we do have a plus package as well for anyone who's interested in adding C# course to it. Get prepared before the development if you're new to coding. An Oculus Quest 2 headset if you don't have a headset. Great way to see what you're building and testing in VR. And 10 hours of private one-on-one sessions with one of our instructors and experts. Really to focus on anything. I like to say own personal ideas and projects, proof of concepts, but really flexible and tailored to whatever you'd like to know. Now, as I mentioned, we do have payment plans, financing options. You can split it up into 3 months, 6 months, or over the year each month, 12 months. Very flexible and happy to speak to that later on. Now, again, if you have a team or a group of family members, colleagues, employees looking to upskill, we do have team training opportunities as well. Feel free to reach out to any of our team members and we'd be happy to dive into that for you. And again, live one-on-one sessions with one of our experts. We don't only focus on Unity, we have Unreal experts here as well. So whatever you want to focus on, build out, and collaborate with our team here, this is available for you to take as well. Now, if you're interested in learning more about what's included in these courses or programs, or you just want to join us for the course, feel free to download a syllabus or apply now, circuitstream.com/learning. We'd love to help you out any way we can. Now, here's some of our admissions team. It has grown. This will change in other for future workshops and webinars. You've got myself, Steph, my colleague Kyle, and Brendan as well. Any of us would be more than happy to help, and we will introduce some of the new members joining our team in the next workshop that we hold. But thank you, everyone, again for joining us today on the workshop. Let's open it up for our Q&A session. Indica, take your time. I'd love to invite you back onto the stage here. Let me remove this screen here. Let's get our pretty faces up here. There it is. Beauty.
There you go.
Awesome. So I do see we had quite a few questions in the questions tab. Indica, you were chipping away at them, so thank you very much. But I don't know if the questions themselves will be on the recording. So just briefly, some questions we had answered. Where do you usually download materials from? What platform? Indica mentioned he uses Sketchfab to download 3D models, Flickr and Unsplash to download images. The rest he made himself using Adobe. Now we had another question here: is the lights are there by default? So Indica, yes, Unity has all the lights for you to build in a cool scene. Now let's see if there was anything else that you answered here. One was from Abdul Malik. How was the audio created? Was it created using AI? Because I noticed the voice was that of a computer generated one. Indica said, yes, it was generated using a text-to-speech generator, not with Unity. It's a WAV file that plays. But let's go to those other questions that we haven't answered. Just briefly here, Indica, could you touch and explain a little bit more? And we won't take too much time because Yunji, we'll send you some more information afterwards. We can dive into this a lot. But could you explain little more on what each of the input action manager, locomotion, teleportation components you added to?
All right. Okay. So maybe I think you can see my screen. Maybe I can explain that a little bit using this. So basically, input action manager. Since we are using the latest versions of Unity's input methods, we need to configure all of these input methods to our controllers right here, right? So in order to do that, XR interaction toolkit has provided a component known as input action manager. So without this, your controllers, it cannot understand where your controllers are. Your buttons will not work without this. So this is what it does. So basically, if you select this XR input actions, you can double click this and you can see here, right? You can see here that the left hand and the right hand, all the controllers, all the controls and all the buttons are set up in this default input actions. And the other one is called the locomotion system. The locomotion system pretty much manages the locomotion of the user, like moving around. And the teleportation provider uses the locomotion system to teleport the user, right? So apart from the teleportation provider, this basically allows you to teleport throughout the scene. But you can add a component called continuous move provider action-based continuous move provider, and also something called snap turn provider right over here, right? And basically by using that, you'll be able to use your joystick to move around. I'm not sure whether this, let's see whether this thing will work. So since I added that, I'm going to drag and drop the locomotion system to this, right? So I'm going to click play and let's see whether this works. All right, so it says that it's playing. Enter play mode. There you go. I can teleport. I can see that I can teleport, but all right. I don't think it's working anymore. Yeah, basically what happens here is that you can slowly use your move tool. Basically, you need to set up some other controllers as well. You can see here that this left hand move action and the right hand move action is not there. Hold on, I think I forgot that. So basically, it's right over here, which is called continuous move and snap turn. So I'm going to click this, select this to default, and select this one as well, and select this to default. So I'm going to click my XR rig again. I'm going to remove these two components. Remove component, remove component. I'm going to add them back in. Snap turn provider, and you can see here that it's filled up now. I'm going to add the continuous movement as well. Continuous move provider. And here we go. I'm going to drag the locomotion system to this again. All right, so let's see. So that's a long answer for this question. So yeah, there you go. All right, so there you go. You can now snap turn and you cannot actually move forward because I think it's using the it's using the teleportation provider as well. Maybe it's kind of like conflicting with it. But if you remove the teleportation provider, you can do that. All right,
Perfect. Thank
we
you. And
can move to the other one. Yeah.
awesome. And great question there. Thank you very much. Next question here. Let me just make sure it's in order. Perfect. This is from Joshua. And Joshua is asking, will there be an option to move smoothly instead of teleporting? I dislike the discontinuity of VR teleportation.
Exactly. So I think I just tackled a bunch of questions at once by showing you that. So instead of using the teleportation provider, you can use the continuous move provider to, just like move around, move through the scene. So just like
Mhm.
that, you can do the smooth movement instead of teleportation.
Perfect. Yes, hopefully that helps out, Joshua. But do let us know in the chat if you need some further explanations. This one's from Ricardo, and Ricardo is asking, which tool is better for editing C# scripts in Unity, Visual Studio or Writer?
Writer and Visual Studio, both of them work pretty much the same way. And I would recommend Visual Studio for Unity because they have like integrated support for Unity. Writer, I don't have that much of experience with it, but I think Writer is something that you can use within Unity. But I would recommend using C Sharp with Visual Studio because C Sharp is created by Microsoft. It's a part of Visual Studio from the beginning, and it has all of this support to that as well. And it is provided by Unity by default. So I would recommend that, but you can use whatever the IDE that you'd like.
Beauty. Hopefully that helps there, Ricardo. Thank you very much for the question. Now, this one is from Naufal, and Naufal tossed it into the chat. I copied it to the questions tab because I felt like it was relevant. He was asking, or she, my apologies, do I need to do things differently or adjust bits of different project settings if Naufal was looking to make it for the HoloLens too?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. So if you are going to build this to a HoloLens 2, you need to make sure that you download a bunch of components. Basically, there is something called as Windows SDK. So you need to have that with you in your Visual Studio. And also, you need to, when you're building it, to your HoloLens, you need to select the the universal Windows platform for that, right? So there is something called universal Windows platform, and by switching into that, you'll be able to put this into that. But anyway, and the other one is also, so let me just share my screen again, and let me just share that with you. It's gonna be it's gonna be a bunch of shares today. So basically, if you go to File, Build Settings, from here, you need to select Universal Windows Platform. And over here, you can set the target device to a HoloLens, as you can see here. And the other one is that, before building that, you need to go to Project Settings. And in your XR plugin management, there is something called Windows Mixed Reality. So this is what actually enables for you to build for HoloLens. So you can use the same things. You can use the XR rig and everything. It will work for HoloLens, but you might need to look at their documentation as well, because some of these things like Snapturn, these providers, the locomotion, teleportation is not provided using in HoloLens. So there are some things that you can do compared with the Quest. There are some things that you cannot. So you might need to read a little bit about the documentation as well.
Yeah, so there are some things that you do need to do differently here and there, but feel free to join
Yeah.
us on Slack. We'd be happy to touch on that a little bit more there. So a couple of questions here from Unji again. Question here, you were starting to respond. I think we touched up on it as well. Is there a better way to move around the museum? Current system seems a bit not intuitive. Yeah, teleportation, walking, running, head bobbing, lots of different ways that you could move through different experiences. And that's what we cover in that design course. What movement is better, where, why would you teleport, why would you walk, why would you run? Lots of different things to keep in mind depending on your audience there. Similarly, once you finalize the scene, how do you move it to the Oculus so we can try it out? So that's the SDK, but feel free to touch up on that a little bit here, Indica. We can also send you an email afterwards, Unji.
Yeah. So yeah, basically the when you want to build this, want to move this to the Oculus, you basically need to do a couple of steps. You first need to enable your Oculus profile as a developer. To do that, you need to go to developer.oculus.com and log in, and then create an organization, verify your profile. So now then you're going to be a developer. And then using your mobile device, you'll be able to turn the developer mode on of your Quest. So once you do that, you'll be able to connect your Quest to your laptop or to your computer. And after that, you'll be able to use the Android development platform method in Unity, and you can export. You can just click build and run. Unity will do everything, right? Since it is connected now with your Quest, right? Unity will build it. Unity will wrap this up, and it will put into your Quest, and even it will launch it for you, right? So you just need to put on your VR glass and test it out. So what I did right now is called as Oculus Link, right? Oculus Link is basically a method that you can use your Oculus Quest as an Oculus Rift, right? If you have a VR capable PC, you can just connect your Oculus Quest with this cable called Oculus Link cable, and you can just press the play button, and if everything is set up, you can just press play and you can just experience it right away without doing any builds or without doing anything, any processes. You can just build it right away.
Perfect. Thank you, Indica. You're full of wisdom. I love it. I love it. Here's one from Ricardo. Ricardo's asking, this example, can it be integrated with WebGL, WebXR for those of us who do not have devices such as an Oculus or other VR headsets?
By default, they don't actually provide that facility because we are using XR Interaction Manager and every API that uses OpenXR and also Oculus XR. But if you want to build this for a WebGL or a WebXR, Unity also has support for WebGL as well. But in order to build something that is performance-wise, I don't think that Unity's WebGL is doing good. But still, you can use Unity to build the same experience. It might take a little bit of time to load in WebGL, with all the file sizes and everything. But yes, you can do that. But you have to remove your XR Interaction Manager and all the XR components that we added to Unity.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. We've got one here from Marie. Marie's asking, is it possible to make the audio fade realistically when you move away from the source? I'll say yes, but Indica, feel free to take it away.
Yeah. So that is what we have done right here. Basically, we just added the spatial component of the audio source, and I couldn't actually test it out very well because I'm teleporting, right? I'm just switching my places instantly. So when I do that, you cannot actually get the smooth fade out of the sound. But if you use the continuous movement and if you move around, then you are moving continuously out of that without just teleporting from one location to another one in an instance, right? So that way, when you do that, you'll automatically hear the sounds realistically fading away, not turning the volume all the way down.
Nope. Perfect. Let's see. We got one here from Diane. Diane's asking, can we add a video player kind of the same way you used an audio player?
Exactly. So in Unity, there is a component, the component that we use for audio player, it was known as audio source. So just like that, there is something called video player, but it doesn't directly play a video or anything. It's just a component that we need to configure. So we can use that video player to play a video, and we can we can play a URL, an MP4 that is hosted somewhere else. But we need to project that video to a certain screen, basically maybe a cube or maybe a sphere or maybe a plane or something like that. But the same way, not exactly the same way, but in a way you can use the video player. But there is a component called video player in Unity. You can directly use that without any hassle.
Perfect. Hopefully that helps there, Diane. This one's from Ricardo. Ricardo's asking, for VR experiences, is it best to move or transport from one location to another? I assume walk, run, or teleport. Again, really depends on the experience you're building, who the audience is, who this is for. Teleportation sometimes causes motion sickness. did for myself on some games that I was playing. So it really depends. And that's what our design course is really focused on, is the user experience side. Why run? Why walk? Why teleport? Who's the audience? What's the best situation for one versus the other? But feel free to add to that a little bit, Indica, if you'd like.
Yeah, so usually it is not like, yeah, like smooth movement in VR is known as, like, it provides motion sickness because you're moving continuously in a VR world, but your body is not moving. So that kind of creates this confusion. Teleportation is pretty much known as the best way to move in a VR scene. But there are like some traits. Like if you want to implement something like continuous movement in VR, you can basically have some sort of a vignette, and you can cover your eyes, because then you won't be able to see whatever that is moving right next to your eye. It's a vignette, and you're looking forward, so that way you can reduce that motion sickness. But when it comes to virtual reality, I think 80% of the applications that I have seen, they're using teleportation. Continuous movement is good, but it will create the motion sickness. So it's a choice everybody has. So if you're building a really good game or really good system, you can have all of these things, right, and let the user configure what the thing that they like without forcing anything.
Lovely. Hey, great question. Thank you, Ricardo. One here from Martin or Martin. How do you fix the moving limits of your scene? Indica, feel free to touch on this.
Yeah. So moving limits, the teleportation, basically you can, what I did was, like, just selected the flow, and then I added the component called teleportation area. So you will only be able to teleport within that area itself. If you want to control if you want to control a smooth movement, basically you need to work with this component called boundaries, or basically it is known as colliders. You can use colliders to limit the user from, like, roaming around freely. Just like that, you can limit. And if you're using teleportation, you need to provide that teleportation area, and the user will only be able to teleport within the areas that we have configured as teleportation areas. So that's how you limit movement.
Beauty. Thank you. Thank you. And then I was just responding to one here in the chat. Let me just send that away. Boop. This one's for Hunter. Hunter, great question. It is all recorded. We'll send the recording about an hour or 2 hours after it. This all wraps up. We got to upload it, download it, share it, whatnot. But yes, recording and project files will find its way to you. One question here from Kathleen. Kathleen was asking, can this use OS VR goggles?
Exactly. You can do that, but OS VR doesn't use the Oculus system. So when the tick that I put as Oculus in Unity, you basically need to tick OpenXR instead of Oculus. So that way everything is going to be the same, because OS VR uses OpenXR.
Lovely. Hopefully that helps out, Kathleen, and I'll be sure to find you on Slack some way or another there. But I think those were all the questions we had in the questions tab. If there's any last minute questions, do toss them into the questions tab. Love to answer those for you while we're here. If not, join us on Slack. We'd love to have you in our Slack channel and community there. But a question here from Patrick. Patrick, great seeing you. Last week, I went to the Van Gogh Immersive in Washington, D.C. We actually had it in Calgary this last weekend as well, and experienced the VR piece, which is somewhat of a museum piece, although the viewer was not in control of their movement, so it was much like a film. Have you seen this, and can you comment on this? So I didn't go to the Van Gogh Immersive experience here in Calgary, so I didn't see this myself. I have seen kind of VR, as you were saying, films or experiences where it's not as interactive as a full VR immersive experience is. But Indica, would love to hear about your insights there. Have you seen this, and can you comment on this?
Yeah, basically that's one way of showing interactive virtual reality. Sorry, in non-interactive virtual reality experiences. Basically everything, the 3D world and everything will be on. It's basically a 3D world, so you can just move your head around, and you can just, like, maybe just have a little bit of a flexibility of your head movement and stuff, but the position, the location, you don't have that control to move around, right? So basically, in Unity, also you can just like remove the controller access from the user, and you can manually move the XR rig from one place to another. You know, you can teleport the user from one place to another, so that you can use, there is something called Unity timeline. So you can use Unity's timeline to manage these different positions, and when you put on your VR glass, it will run that sequence instead of allowing the user to freely interact with the world. So that's basically how you create different types of VR experiences. Some studios like to have some sort of an interactive element into it, and some studios just provide the experience itself in a 360 world.
Mhm.
Some of them also can be just 360 videos. They're not just 3D worlds, but they're just 3D videos, 360 videos that were just rendered.
Right. So that and
Yeah.
similar things that I've also come across and seen myself. So hopefully this helps out there, Patrick. But great to see you went there. I'd love to hear more about your experience. My friends have said a lot of great things about it. So Kathleen, I'll follow up with you afterwards in regards to the Slack there. I'll be sure I've got your contact information down. And then Abdul Malik, question here. Can you please point to me to the available text-to-speech tool that I can try out? Really don't know much about it. Thank you. And thank you, Abdul Malik, for the question there. Indika, could you share the text-to-speech tool with
Yeah.
Abdul?
Yeah, so the one that I used is known as play.ht. It's not traditional, it's an AI powered text to voice generation tool. This is one of the best tools that I've seen. There is no, I don't think that they have a free version of that. I think they have a free trial. And also there is something called fpt.ai that is also using an artificial intelligence system to run it. So just put that link as well. So you just need to like put on your like whatever the text that you want and press the button, and the AI will generate the voice for you.
Beauty. Hopefully that helps, Abdul Malik. I see he's typing. Probably a thank you. Hopefully it is. That'd be nice. But I think those were all the questions in the questions tab. Again, feel free to toss in any last minute ones if there are no more questions. Indica, first of all, thank you for your time here today, your expertise, your knowledge. I always learn so much from you. Thank you very much for joining us today. And to everyone who's still tuned in here, there's still quite a large audience here. Thank you for joining us on another Circuit Stream workshop. We do hope to have you on future workshops and webinars. I haven't checked out the recommendation scores yet on the polls, but if they're good, you'll be sure that we'll be here. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us on this intro to creating your own VR museum workshop. Ricardo, Christopher, Gian, Jennifer, thank you all for tuning in, for being so active and engaged in the chat there. Nofal, thank you as well. Matthew, I see you. Carl's typing. Thanks, everyone. With this, we're going to wrap things up here. Again, we'll send the recording to you to follow along, slow things down, play pause as you wish. The files, everything you need to build this out, we'll be sure to send it all to you. Sasan, Sabrina, Joe, Mary, thank you all. Tomash, Neil, appreciate it. Have a lovely day, night, morning, evening, wherever you may be in the world. But I thank you all again, and we do hope to see you very soon. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.